I have a copy of the Kama Sutra in Spanish here that someone gave me a few years ago. So you are a Kama Sutra expert. I think when people think of Kama Sutra, they think of lots of sex positions. But it's not just that, is it? What is the Kama Sutra?
So yes, you're absolutely right. People talk of the Kama Sutra, and I'm sure, I don't know what your version is like, but I have a feeling that it's mostly based on the arts of pleasure and very little else. I don't know if
I
it
think it's
has
just an
the
illustration.
rest
It
of the
has a lot of text in it
sections.
as well. And then
Okay.
some drawings.
Um, it's just, okay, so the Kama Sutra was originally written sometime in 300 something AD as a book to explain to the urbane man, to the wealthy man, how to live the perfect lifestyle. So it's a lifestyle book. And I always say to people, and they're always surprised when I say this, that the book was written for men. It was not written for women, because going back to that time, 300 something AD, women were not taught how to read or write. So the book was written for men, and the book is written in 7 sections. So the first section talks about how a man should find the perfect location for his house, how he should build it, how many bedrooms there should be, how many minor birds and parrots he should keep in his garden, and how many hours he should spend talking to them, how many hours should be spent getting himself massaged, and what should be his idea of ornamentation. The second section is on the arts of pleasure. The third section is on how to go look for the perfect wife. The fourth section is how to marry the perfect wife. The fifth section is how to seduce another man's wife. I mean, it's like yeah, there's also a section on that. And it's a very politically motivated thing, because there might be a reason to seduce somebody else's wife, because her husband might be of use to you, or he might be able to give you a position of power or something. So there's quite a lot to the text. The sixth section is about the courtesans, because courtesanery back then was a state-regulated profession. And so there's lots of rules around that, and how much they're allowed to charge, what all they can do, etc. And the seventh section, which I think was added much later, it's a bit of a pointless section, is all about magic potions and lotions. And quite honestly, I don't think that there's anything of any worth in there. And I think it was put in as a sort of, oh, look, we've added this section of magic potions and lotions, and it suddenly makes it acceptable. I don't know why that was put in there. But the section that people pick up always, the little bit, which is the positions, which is actually a teensy little part of the section on the arts of pleasure. It's not even the entire thing. And I think that's because they picked that up because it's the only word that they understood. The rest of the Kama Sutra, it's a treatise. It's written, as are all treatises, in metaphors. It's a grammarian's book. And most of those metaphors have never been translated. People don't understand what they meant, so they went for the positions. And of course, over time, it just became the easiest thing to focus on. I must admit that I am particularly interested in the second section, which is the arts of pleasure. The reason that I'm interested in that is because this is the only place where I think they were trying to change the narrative of women, because that section is totally devoted to how a man must understand a woman's pleasure, how he must treat a woman, how he must understand how to bring her to complete pleasure. And I have a feeling, I mean, when you read the Kama Sutra, if anybody out there decides to read the Kama Sutra, they will see for themselves that you don't actually talk about the act of sex at any point. So you talk about positions, but we're not actually talking about the act of sex. And there was a reason why that the idea of positions was put in. Would you like to know why they are?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I guess maybe people didn't read. If people couldn't read back then, maybe it was a visual part that anyone could understand. Would that be a reason?
No, there weren't actually paintings in the original one. It was written as a text, and as I said, it's funny because this bit was actually written to change the narrative of women. Even though we'd like to believe that in the time of the Kama Sutra, there's so much importance being given to the pleasure of women that maybe it was a different society altogether. There was always a parallel strand of patriarchy that was trying to put the women down. So this is being written really to make people understand that there's a whole different narrative, or to get people to change the way that they think of women. And it's interesting because in the introduction, it actually says that, I mean, the book is about karma. It's about love, or the aspects of love in all its many different ways. A lot of people think that karma means lust. It doesn't.
So what does Kama Sutra mean then? So what does it mean?
Sutra means the thread. So literally, this is talking about so if you translate it directly, it's about the thread of love, or the story of love. The sutra is literally a story or a narrative that follows a thread. So the Kama Sutra literally means when you live your life, they say that there are three basic principles to life. So you live according to dharma, which is your social responsibilities, artha, which is your financial responsibilities, build up a business, earn your money, and kama, which is your emotional relationships. So karma is to do with love in all its aspects. It's not just lust or physical pleasure. Okay. Yeah, it's not. No, because somebody recently said to me, "Oh, it means lust," and I was like, "No, it doesn't just mean physical pleasure. It means pretty much everything. It's just what we've come to understand what it means." And I was going to say first about the positions, because I get a bit carried away. It's a very exciting subject as far as I'm concerned, but to just explain, it says that if you are going to make love, it should always be entirely mutually pleasurable. Otherwise, there's no point to sex. There's no point to making love if it is not completely mutually pleasurable. And the very first thing towards making it mutually pleasurable is if the sexual organs of both partners are in sync, if they're the same kind of size. So if the woman is too big and the man is too small, she's not going to feel any of the excitement. He's not going to feel the excitement. If she's too small, he's too big, there's just going to be pain and discomfort. So the first thing is that the organs have to be the same size, but nobody ever in history was like, I'd love to get together with you, but what is the size of your, genitalia? It's not possible. So the positions were created to help people synchronize their sizes. Oh, wow. So if the woman was very big and the man was really small, it was about what kind of positions would make her a little bit smaller. So she could lie on her side, if she pulled her knees up a little bit. So those are the positions that she would follow. If the man was very short, then there were certain positions that help deeper penetration. If the woman's very small and he's too big, again, there are different positions for that. And that's why the positions were actually created. They were not created for some kind of gymnastic display.
That's fascinating, because I've always said, because people always ask me if size is important, I've always said that genital compatibility is more important. And I think people blamed the men all the time, when in fact, actual fact is about both. And I think, is there any kind of recommendations for pelvic floor training in the Kama Sutra, like exercises?
Well, I think that there's generally a lot of recommendation for exercise, and because they say that that's really great for you. But, one of the things that they talk about, because you do get to a point where people have different abilities, different capacities. Not everybody can sort of do pelvic floor exercises. And it's not just the woman's responsibility. As I said, this book was actually putting a lot of the responsibility on the man to make sure that he was the one pleasuring the woman, not the other way around for most of it. And again, like I said, that's a big myth that we have in society, that it's the woman's responsibility. Not so according to the Kama Sutra. And one of the things that it does recommend for any of your readers who are out there and thinking, well, how can they actually change things around to make their genital compatibility easier? It says that every bedroom should have at least 8 cushions of different sizes and shapes that should be put under different parts of your body. Because each time you put one under your body in a different place and a different shape, it changes the angle of penetration. And they say that a woman's vagina has something like 24 pleasure spots. So not just the one G spot, there's about 24 pleasure spots. It's every spot has its own sensation. So it's not a generic kind of, you hit that spot and you're going to be like, oh, I'm just so passionately aroused because it's also exciting. One spot might make you feel really chilled out. Another spot might make you feel very aroused. Another one might make you feel very satisfied. Another one might make you feel really mellow, it's just each one is different. And that's what passion, arousal, pleasure, intimacy should be about. And hence, as I said, the 8 cushions are, it's an easy way of going about it. But as I was saying, what's really interesting is that I think personally, it was written to change the narrative of women, because when you read the introduction of the Kama Sutra, it actually has this, and the Kama Sutra has been translated by a lot of people. We've lost a lot of it. I found this in a commentary written in the 11th century by a Buddhist monk. And it says over there that men are told that if they can take the time and effort to bring a woman completely to pleasure, their wife, their partner, whoever it is, that their life will become better. So if you can pleasure your wife fully, your business will do better.
Mm.
Because they've got to make the change aspirational. Your business will do better because she won't just go out and waste your money. She won't go and splurge on unnecessary things. She won't go off and have affairs. She will look after your household very, very carefully because she feels so, satisfied in herself.
And also the sacral chakra is like associated with sexuality and money. So I guess that makes
absolutely sense. So, that is the whole point of, so they were trying to make it really aspirational for men. And it's so sad because those are the things that have been lost in our translations, in our taking the text forward. It even says that if you can be a super good lover and really pleasure your partner, you can be a better warrior.
Mm.
Because your body can only really do so much, right? It's a restrictive amount that you can do with your physical body. But with those restrictions, if every day when you're together or every time you're together, you can bring an element of surprise, something new somehow that will excite her, you can take that same skill to the battlefield where you can approach your enemy with something different that will take them by surprise and give you the edge. And there were even battle positions named after lovemaking positions.